fighting for solitary confinement to end. We've been fighting for reform against this system to break it down. I gotta say, the stories that we hear, that we've heard today, and that we haven't heard yet, that's still happening, this is heartbreaking, but it's also angering. Immunity now. We are ready and we are demanding it. Up next, we have Mr. 5, Maureen Ak, human rights activist and president of Incarcerated Nation.
I want to speak to you today around how qualified immunity permeates a person's life. More so, a person who is a black man in New York City. You know, I run alternative incarceration programs where we facilitate trauma-informed classes to create young adult credible messages who are already justice impacted, serving long-term sentences under correction. What we teach them, and I have to teach them, is the 400 years of qualified immunity. The 400 years where their ancestors and their people, and they have generational trauma living in their body, that they don't even understand why they see that badge or they see the authority and they know that there's no win for them, there's no rights for them. But as a person previously incarcerated, I can tell you about the years of my life spent inside where I faced tickets in solitary for being out of place in my cell, for destruction of state property, which might have been a blanket or hoarding. And yes, I tried to hold those officers accountable by going to the hearing thinking I would have some type of legal representation, some type of advocate, or the ability to at least advocate for myself. And then I said, you know what, I got 47 witnesses on this tier. Let me go to subpoena them. And the officer says, whoa, those aren't people. Those are prisoners. The only person you can subpoena is the same guard who wrote you the ticket. And I come home to try to chase that and change that. I was only released because they locked up the officers who locked up me. And the entire Schenectady Police Department at one time, they felt after a decade of investigating, needed to be arrested, the entire precinct. I come home to do stop and frisk with a friend of mine, Gabanga, in Cornell West. So I know I'm going to jail. But I didn't expect for the officers to then lock up my child the next day for the same quote-unquote riding his bicycle on the sidewalk, yet I can't get accountability. My son, who's very popular, he's a photographer, he's on TV, he does YouTube. A kid loses their cell phone in school. They ask the child, well, who do you know that was outside? They're like, oh, I know Matthew, everybody knows him. That turned into a warrant for my child, in which Assemblyman Blake and Raymond Santana had to advocate for his safe surrender at 12, and then again at 13, and then again at 14, and then at 16, and then at 18. My son goes to Baldwin, which is across Union Square, because that is his 8th school. The Rosenberg's fund pays for my kids' treatment because they have been harassed and arrested so much based on the work and activism that I do. But yet throughout my life, this immunity has permeated from me as a child, to me as a man, to me as an organizer. One of my youth told me today, as he goes to hospital respond to an incident, he says, how am I, a young adult, I own my own nonprofit. I work for myself and 2 of my friends are my employees. I have 2 children that I am the head of household for. Yet no matter how I'm dressed, when I walk out my door, every day I am emasculated by law enforcement and by others that I can't hold accountable. Why am I not accountable for my life? Why does my voice not matter? This is an everyday trauma, and this is why we say rage is a justifiable emotion. It is when it is permeated through all your life, and your father's life, and your grandmother's life, and your great-grandparents' life. to the point that your entire race is deemed invalid, unrecognized, minute, drowned out. And we have the power to change that. Pass qualified immunity. Hold those accountable who hold our lives accountable. Thank you.
Mr. Bob, thank you so much for that. He was sharing with us stories of generations of pain that we're still dealing with today. We are talking about cycles of perpetual punishment that need to end now. Up next.
Waiting, get them buttons, bro. Subscribe.
You know, right there. Tap it.
Tap them shits right there.
Tap that button.